This is a disturbing video. Before we play this, parents, the reason why I'm showing this is because I think parents are not aware of this enough. Here's a guy who's a convicted child predator being interviewed. Tom, have you seen this before or no? Jed, have you seen this before?
Not.
Okay.
I have not.
Frank, have you seen this?
No.
It's so disturbing. It's not even funny, but it's so necessary because the interviewer gets exactly how he groomed young boys before molesting them. It's a 2-minute clip. Again, brace for impact. Parents, I highly recommend you watch this for your own self and start teaching your kids before they come across somebody like this. Go ahead, Rob.
How did you get them alone?
Grooming. I would check out their family situation. I would check out their clothing to see how well they were, financially. I would check out their social interaction with other kids. When we were on the ballparks or on the gym floor, I would make sure which ones I wanted to molest. I would give them special attention, congratulate them, talk to them when I know that I would never be allowed to talk to anybody else. Aside from everybody, I would give them the attention that an official is not supposed to give anybody. And it made them feel like, wow, he's paying me attention. It is a direct form of grooming.
Were there certain characteristics that you looked for in children before molesting them?
In children, yes, but more I
Here we go.
also looked at their families.
There you go.
If I thought the father was a threat, I would not approach the child.
Bingo.
If I thought that the child had friends that he would tell, I would not approach him. If I thought the child had friends that were in the same capacity he was, I would approach him. For the simple fact that if I could molest him, I could lure him into grooming him into believing that he would enjoy it. And therefore, I could manipulate him into having his other friends come and be molested by me as well.
So perhaps a child that doesn't really have a whole lot of friends, maybe not really a strong family, things like that.
Yes, no spiritual values.
No spiritual values.
Weak in education, needs help in many ways. Even from split parenting, has a mother who may be having problems with the family, well, here comes superhero in to help out, wow, well, thank you very much. No problem. You ever need me to take them away for the night so you can have a night out?
Oh my gosh.
No problem. It works.
Bingo. Thoughts?
That's why I said that about the fatherless homes. It happens all the time. And it happens with everything. I mean, you have to think about like a dad in a home and what that means. I mean, even if you say you have a daughter and she's going to date somebody, that guy's out to do no good, comes to the front door and meets PBD or meets my husband, good luck, or meets Tom, good luck, or any dad out there. So a dad is really like a check on really some bad stuff. A dad has really good, strong radar. A dad who is wired properly and has his masculinity and all that intact, which is what I talk about all the time, is going to say, no, stop. And people will read that. People out to do harm will read that. And if they see a home where there is a mom who's home, who's alone, who's struggling financially, where there's a lot of holes there, that creates an opportunity for some really terrible stuff to happen. So that's very interesting that we just.
By the way, he went to jail for 12 years for molesting a number of kids
Disgusting.
in the 80s. Go ahead, Tom.
What's really, this just shows you just how busy and how much the citizenry isn't paying attention. Not all of them. And all of us are into this. I'm not putting anyone above any others in terms of parents. Everybody gets busy. Everybody doesn't pay attention. You have today groups that are coming to high schools to talk about the dangers of social media. And they're talking about predators because predators are bad. And you've got same-sex couples there that are coming to there concerned about their kids being on Facebook or kids being on social media and meeting predators and going off and having bad things happen. And they're concerned about that. But then 10 minutes later, right? Nobody, you see where I'm going, Jed? No, it's like they have this concern for the safety of their child. They have this concern for it. But then when they come back to what is the school teaching, what is the average guidance counselor doing, what are people not doing, and what are they not telling you, they're not connecting the two dots there. They say, listen, grooming is grooming. You're concerned about predators over here. You're concerned about social media safety. You're concerned about really terrible things happening on one hand, but on the other hand, you've kind of not turned a blind eye, but you haven't been paying attention to see it's come in on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this video points out some really good topics when it comes to who has access to this information easily. Who has the profession where they can determine these types of things that this individual did to attack children? And I would argue that teachers have all this information in abundance of all of their classrooms. And when you pair something like that knowledge with pride flags happening in classrooms, which I'm a huge proponent that we should ban pride flags out of classrooms, you are opening up the door for these teachers to have sexual conversations with students that is highly inappropriate, that is not effective to their education. I argue that if you're hanging a pride flag in your classroom, I want you to explain that to me as if I'm a 6-year-old, and it's going to boil down to sexual preference. And that is no conversation for a stranger, an outside entity from the family home, to have that discussion with the child. And this video fully proves that when you look at an educator, as a parent, you should be questioning teachers more so than any person that your child is around. You should be very involved in the things that your child is learning, because they have access to ultra-sensitive information that can jeopardize your child's well-being positively or negatively.
That's 100% true, because I used to be the dean of a school, and I would, academic dean, and I would work with kids aged seventh grade through high school, and I knew everything about their families. I knew everything about their parents. I knew what was going on in their home. I knew if that child was troubled. I know if they're on medications, ADHD medication, whatever it may be. I know what their academics looks like. I know how many times they're in and out of the office, if there's an emotional trauma or emotional problem. I know some of what's been discussed with a guidance counselor. This is 100% true. And this is why I think you've seen this blow up in homeschooling, because there's such a deep concern about what's going on in schools now. And parents think that they can't monitor it adequately. They're like, well, I'm not there all day. Ultimately, you are giving your children away to an institution for a period of time in the day. You can try to be as present as possible. You can do those parent-teacher conferences. You can have those in-person interactions. But many parents are feeling like, especially if they have no choice but to put their kids in public school right now, they're feeling very, very concerned and afraid, which is why the homeschooling industry is blowing up the way that it is.
And this is where I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, everything.
No, go ahead, Tom.
And the BizDoc babe, she's a teacher, and she'll tell you, she said, that there's this odd chasm that gets formed. Parent calls you, said the kid was in a fight. She'll say, here's what we know, here's what we observed, here's what the witnesses said, here's another teacher on the playground said. You get chapter and verse, and little kids, you get these little things called an ouch report if they got hurt. Number one, they'll tell them about the grades. They'll tell them about the tests. They'll tell them if they stole from another kid. They'll tell them if they cheated on a test. You can go through the whole thing, and it says, has he been acting out? You can't tell. Then you're not supposed to tell them the next parts. And she said, this is really troubling to a lot of teachers. Teachers are not unified on this. They're troubled. They're saying, listen, the parents should know everything. And there's a difference between kid that's got a very bad stepmother or an abusive relationship or something odd is happening at home. And there's some intervention eventually is going to be needed, maybe not CPS, but there's a difference between that and then suppressing information. You can share everything and anything. And by the way, the schools we got to talk to the parents because this kid is disruptive and all the other parents are complaining. So we need to talk to this parent so that their little boy who's just ADHD will stop disrupting the class. And there's this urgency to do it. But the parent then wants to get a briefing on everything. You tell the parent everything except. And parents now are reacting to this saying, no, wait a minute, this is kind of crazy. And we shouldn't paint all teachers like this because there's a lot of teachers out there that are saying, no, we shouldn't be putting a limit on this. But those teachers, some of them doesn't matter their political affiliation, they're liberals and are saying, listen, we got to get the parents involved in this but I can't say anything and I can't say that that's my feeling. Mm-hmm. And so certain teachers are being kind of pushed back from expressing it by what is being characterized as a very loud minority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have no power. Some of those teachers have no power because they're working within the confines of a system that prohibits them. They can either lose their job or they can go teach at a private independent school, which I worked at, where there's a little bit more flexibility because, there aren't these, top-down government mandated procedures that people have to follow. But it is an increasing problem.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.